You're listening to Garibaldi Red, a Nottingham Forest podcast brought to you by Nottinghamshire Live. Hello, welcome to this week's Garibaldi Red as we look back on a 2-0 win for Nottingham Forest over Bristol City, which takes them to 9th in the Championship, 3 points off the playoffs with 13 games to go. So we're going to talk about that and a fair few other bits in the company, first of all, of Reds legend Garry Birtles. Hello, Gary, you okay?
Yeah, good afternoon. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks. Good. And our second guest today is Reds fan and Forza Garibaldi co-founder Greg Mitchell. You well, Greg?
Yeah, good as ever, thank you.
Good. Right, Greg, we'll come to you first because you were at the. Well, were you at the game on Saturday? Don't tell me you weren't at the game on Saturday.
Yeah.
You were. Yeah. Good. Disastrous start averted. What did you make of it overall?
It was good. It was one of those far too easy games, wasn't it? Where you just kind of breezed through it and everything seemed to go to plan, and there wasn't really anything that went wrong. There was a point where I thought, God, we're not going to score here. It's going to be one of those frustrating games. But as soon as we did, we never looked in danger. Solid at the back, steady midfield, and, got the goals. It was just God, if we play like that every game and get those kind of performances, we're going somewhere, aren't we?
Before we started recording, Gary, we were saying it might not be a memorable game, but it was one they needed to win. You don't want that gap to open up, do you, on the top six?
No, I think the problem at the moment is other teams just keep winning at the moment. They're scoring late goals and, you're just pulling your hair out. Well, I haven't got much left to pull out, but, you keep doing that because you think, the results are going for us, and all of a sudden 2 or 3 results suddenly change around. And, but you can't affect other people's games. That's the thing, Steve will be telling his players. You've got to go out there and win your matches, and if they go and win their matches and are better than us, they'll get into the playoffs and we won't. It's simple as that. But nerves come into play this time of the season. Other teams will be dropping points because they're playing against each other. But I still fancy us to get in the playoffs. I don't know how long Lewis Grabban's got before he comes back, but a fresh Lewis Grabban could be a major boost for the squad if he does come back. Because against Preston, had he been on the pitch when Jed Spence did all his magic, we would have won that game 1-0 late on when we didn't deserve to win the game. That's the difference of strikers and the instinct of strikers and things like that. So important we keep everybody fit, and important we get him back.
Were you nervous before the game, Greg? And what was the kind of mood like in the pub beforehand? Because I was pretty worried they couldn't afford to lose the game. So was that sense in the crowd as well?
Bristol City, they're not a very good team, are they? We're used to them being quite high up there and very similar to us in the last few years, I suppose. But no, I think because the last 2 games we didn't get the results we wanted, but we still picked up a couple of points. I was going in there confident, like we had something to prove, and there wasn't really any worries our side. We were all just looking forward to the game to get down there, and I think it was just exactly how we all expected it to go, which is nice. It's weird to be down there and not feel nervous, and it really did feel like that kind of game that it'll be forgotten about in a couple of weeks, but it was a solid 3 points.
Well, you mentioned about, we had all the possession, everything. You didn't think we were going to score. I was listening to Soccer Saturday, the Manchester United-Watford game. Man United must have had about 24, 25 shots, and they could not score to save their lives. They were getting blocked on the line, they were hitting their own players and everything. And that ended up 0-0. At least ours didn't end up 0-0. We went on and, there's the belief. I always say, 6-7 months ago before Steve came in, that might not have been the case. We might not have scored. It might have been one of those games where it just petered out, and but it wasn't. And like Steve said, I like what he said in both games after the Preston game. He said, that wasn't good enough from us. We're grateful for a point. I think they were the better side. And on Saturday, he said, it could have been 5 or 6. Told them to go out, be positive second half, and I think their goalkeeper was man of the match, wasn't he?
Oh, he must have been.
City's keeper. Apparently, he was a different class than some of the saves he made. But, the encouragement is clearly there. The confidence is clearly there. And, if you keep those 3 at the back fit, I think that's very important. The 3 centre-halves, it's paramount because they're very difficult to break down. 2 clean sheets in the last 2 games. And when you're playing against teams like Sheffield United and your Bournemouths, you need that stability at the back, I think, so you can build on. Because clearly going forward, if things are all right at the back, we can hurt anybody, with the pace we have. And Davies just seems to be getting better and better. So it's all looking rather rosy for me.
If we look at team selection at the moment, there's quite a few players who are nailed on, but it seems like there's 4 players vying for 3 places in Yates, Garner, Colback and Zinkernagel. I guess, Gary, you're going to tell me that's a good problem to have, isn't it? Because anyone who misses out is pretty unlucky there, do you think?
Oh, it's a fantastic problem for Steve to have. And they're all, in reasonable form. Zinkernagel looks like the one who's, maybe at the back of the pecking order at the moment, but he can come at any time and create something out of nothing. He's one of those sort of players. Garner seems to be getting his confidence back, and we all know when he is on form, what a good player he is. The other two, Colback and Yates, I mean, crikey, if those two seem to be a fixture now, don't they? And I think in the big games against the Bournemouths away and against the Sheffield Uniteds away, that might be the combination that, helps us get something out of those 2 games. With the pace we've got going forward as well, but they can protect. And sometimes you have to look at the opposition and say, right, okay, they do this well, they do that well. What have we got to combat them? And Colback and Yates certainly come into the category of, they can spoil things.
Ryan Yates is in talks over a new contract, and obviously Brennan Johnson is as well. What did you make of it, Greg, when Yates was left out? And is it a bit, who's the unlucky one there, do you think, if you had one game, let's say a playoff final, who's the unlucky one who's missing out for you?
Yates would be the unlucky one if he was to miss out. I mean, you look back to this time last year, I can't remember, I don't think we were allowed in the grounds, were we? But not many people were a fan of Yates, and now when he's not in the team sheet, you go, guys, he's injured. How come he's not playing? And you see, I do think we do miss him. When he came on, the crowd was singing his name for a good 5 minutes, and he's a fan favourite, and he definitely deserves a new contract. I think it's massively different to the Johnson situation because he's obviously got so much interest, but Ryan Yates deserves a good contract from us, and he's proved it this year. He's solid. He's one of those players that, if one of the back 3 do get injured, he can drop straight into it, and he's a really decent player to have, and he's one of those that's helping us get where we are going this season.
Because he's released the shackles off, every player at that club. And, they're expressing themselves. And, that's, as an ex-player, that's all you can ask for from your manager. Those sort of words, go out and express yourself. Go out and, show us what you can do. Like Brian Clough, he wasn't bothered what we couldn't do. He was only bothered what we could do. And that going out on a football pitch for 90 minutes as a player gives you so much confidence and such a lift when you think, right, okay, well, my right foot's not as good as my left foot. So, he's only bothered, in the good things I can do. He's not bothered about my weaknesses or anything like that. And I think, the players have taken all that on board. And, Ryan Yates, it's amazing how great a player you become when you're not in the team. It's always been the old adage, hasn't it? And I think now even more so. It's like Lewis Grabban at the moment. You could do with him either coming off the bench or whatever. You got a bit of criticism at some point, but I think overall, what we're seeing there, still, I can't believe what the turnaround's been like. I mean, I think some fans may be taking a little bit for granted, but when you look back how bleak it was and how good it is now, it's just like night and day. The difference is just staggeringly good. And, I think for the first time, maybe not since Lamouchi, when we should have got in the playoffs and didn't, that was a massive disappointment. But I think we look a lot better under Steve Cooper than we did under Lamouchi.
I mentioned Brennan Johnson. Should he have had a penalty, Greg, or not?
Yes. You when you see it back, yes. The second one this week that we should have had and didn't get, in my opinion. The one at Preston, we were right on that line and we should have got it, but didn't go our way, and arguably we've lost 2 points out of these last 2 games because of it. But yeah, we never seem to get the rub with the referees at the minute, and it is frustrating. Going back to the Yates and Zink and Garner and Colback thing as well, the defence, there's that much confidence in our defence at the minute. We've got one of the best in the league, if not the best in the league. The midfield had the freedom to do a little bit more. And I thought Zinkernagel was superb on Saturday. I went down the pub, started singing his praises, and I got lambasted by one guy saying how useless he was and this, that, the other. So I think, we don't realise how good we've got it at the minute, Gary, like you said earlier. And, we'll do well to remember that sometimes. After the Preston game, behind us, there was a couple of boos, and I thought, what are we doing here? It was just crazy. So, we've got rid of our little bit of poor form by only drawing a couple of the games and had a good result again now. And I think we'll go on Friday and get another decent result, get another win.
Has Brennan Johnson got a reputation for diving that's becoming a problem, Gary, whether it's right or wrong? All right, Greg, you answer that. I'm going to boot Gary out.
He has got a reputation for diving, but I'd say his reputation because he's how good and how quick he is. Defenders just can't keep up with him. So they are tapping him. And like on Saturday, there was contact. He went down because there was contact there. But, the refs do their research, don't they? And it's unfair on Brennan that that's the case. But we'll have a few more of them this season. But he's just such a good quality player, isn't he? He's so good. Double figures now. I think we've got to be in the Premier League to have any chance of having him next season. That's just being realistic, isn't it? I loved what John, his dad, was saying last week, but he's just too good to be in the Championship next season. He really is.
6 goals out of 8 games now, isn't it? I mean, can Forest get in the playoffs if anything happens to him or if his form dips?
Well, absolutely. It's like we lost Graben, and that was a question back then. Can we get in the playoffs without Graben? And Davies is such a quality, strong player. The way he holds it up and the way he gets around players and his energy. So we don't want to lose a single player. We obviously don't. But if we do lose a player from that squad, there's always somebody else there now. Look at Horvath. Look, the goalkeeper, 2 clean sheets already now. I know his distribution isn't as good as Samba's, but his shot stopping and, that maybe that's just a bit of rust in his part. If he gets another clean sheet on Friday, then Cooper's got another fantastic headache to have, hasn't he?
True. I'll put a couple of comments up about Brennan. Greg says refs aren't giving Brennan anything. I think they've got him down as a diver, which I think is probably true. I think they have, unfortunately. This is an interesting one from Richard. Johnson much more dangerous out wide, not as a front pairing with Davies. I do think that kind of link up between Zinkernagel. I think Johnson's a better player when Zinkernagel's on the pitch, probably. Is that fair?
Yeah. And I think, like I say, I thought Zink played brilliant on Saturday. And Brennan can be quiet for like half the game, and then suddenly there's that bit of brilliance, a bit like Spence against Preston. It was a frustrating game and no one was really doing anything. Then suddenly the game's gone, everyone's settled for a draw, and Spence does this ridiculous run down the right wing and almost got us a goal. So, these quality players, they do, don't they? They can watch the game for so long and then suddenly say, this is my couple of minutes to change the game. And we've got 3 or 4 of them now.
True. Right, Gary's back. Hello, Gary.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Ethan Horvath has kept 2 clean sheets in the last 2 games. I mean, if he keeps another one and plays well, is it a tough decision for the manager, or is Brice Samba still number 1?
Still number 1 for me. I think he's had great protection, to be fair, with probably 3 of the best centre-halves in the Championship. Taking nothing away from him, he's still going to make the saves. He's still really in the right place. But I just think, Samba is the best goalkeeper.
Samba's the best goalkeeper, but he's also proven that there's an issue there, isn't there? That can you trust him in those massive playoff games? Is he going to make the same mistake again? He did something at Derby and then he got sent off. And hopefully now, they've managed to sit down with him and said, you can't keep acting like you are doing, because he is a superb goalie. I've said it before, I think he's the best goalkeeper we've had since Mark Crossley. But there's that bit inside him that you just think, oh God, what's he going to do? What's he going to say? Like, he needs to learn when to just, keep stum and remember about the team and not just his frustrations. So, yeah, I mean, what I was saying whilst you were off, Gary, is if Horvath does keep another clean sheet on Friday, then maybe there's a decision to be made. But of course, Brice is the number 1 at the minute. But I think Horvath would be a number one in any other championship team at the minute, or most of them.
Give us a quick, we'll come on to the other games. What was your quick verdict on Preston, actually? We haven't really touched on that because you
frustrating.
were there.
I think they like blocked out the midfield. You know, they made sure the Spence and Johnson duo was looked after, and they did it well. Ched Evans was a pain, and I was so glad when he went off because I thought he was going to end up scoring. It was a good point. You can't just say, "Oh, it's Preston, we should beat them." It was Preston in, you know, playing one of their better games in a few weeks by the sounds of it, listening to their fans. So, you know, in the end, you just got to say we caught them on a very, very good day. We weren't like we normally are, like all guns blazing, and we walked away with something, and that's the main thing. And it was only a good result because we won on Saturday. So I don't think we'll have many away performance, you know, that flat, but Preston certainly did a job on us, but we got a point, and that was the main thing.
It was probably the first game where I've questioned Cooper's tactics because they didn't seem to, they didn't make any changes for ages, and I just felt like they were going to score in the end. So I guess you can say Cooper got it right because they ground out a point, but when you were in the stands, was there a bit of unrest about the lack of subs?
Yeah, I mean, I was frustrated that we didn't make any subs, and I was walking out, and a mate who we travelled up with, he said basically, yeah, but the options were like Mighton and was it Lolly to make a difference, and they might have got a little bit bullied by Preston because they were, you know, tough lads in their midfield. So I think that's probably what Cooper was looking at, wasn't he? Like, are we just shoring up this point, or are they going to like get us if we do bring the subs on? So he made one, didn't he? But sometimes you just got to take the result for what it is and move on. And luckily we did, and we got the good result on Saturday.
Let's look ahead to upcoming games. There's the Sheffield United one on Friday now. I suppose every game's a massive game now, isn't it? But this is one against the other teams around you that are vying for that playoff place, and they've been another resurgent team. If Forest can win this one, it's a big step forward, isn't it?
If Forest win this one, it'll be the result of the season so far, because they are in the same position as us, hoping to get into them playoffs, secure that. And you just look at like Saturday's game. If we hadn't have won, where we'd have been in the table now. And I feel like we get a result on Friday, and that is just going to change everything for us and really make everyone take note and make us realise how good we are. Because we're certainly the form team away from home. There's no reason we can't go there and get a result. And I think we'll go there and try and get all three, but just because of where they are in the league. Well, he says it every game anyway, doesn't he? They go for the 3 points every game, which what you want to hear. But I really do believe we can get them on Friday.
What kind of team are you going for then? Because we've just discussed this, you know, the 4-3 kind of scenario. It feels to me like one where you might want that extra midfield solidity, but then they went for that at Preston and they couldn't really get out, and maybe it is better to play Zinchenko. It's another dilemma, isn't it, for the manager? Lowe can't play, can he? So Colback's going to have to probably play left wing back. Yeah,
so you definitely play Garner, and then, like you say, decisions made for you, isn't it? With Lowe not being able to play, I think he's played excellent. Well, he's played excellent ever since we've had him, but just because of all the, you know, the attention on the Spence and Johnson side, Lowe just goes about his business quietly, doesn't he? But luckily, Colback, again, one of those utility players that can step in when needed, and it sorts out the midfield issue as well. So it might be a little bit like the Graben injury. It's not always a disaster because we have to play a little bit different and we start getting results in other ways.
Are you worried about Colback getting a suspension? I am.
Yeah,
he loves a tactical yellow card.
Always.
Oh my God.
If I was a betting man, there'd be a yellow card on Colback every game.
But it's the same yellow card. It's always him jumping on someone's back or pulling someone's...
Well, he gets angry, doesn't he? If the ref doesn't give him a decision, you see him start chasing people. You think, oh no.
A lot of people, or a few people, are saying, you know, Forest rejects. Well, Burke isn't there, but Robinson, Sharp, Ben Osborne. Do you worry that? Worry that they might have be a factor in the game or not?
Not as much as I used to. Like we always used to go, oh God, here comes this player and he'll score against us, one of the old teams. But no, not as much anymore. I think just saying their names now, thinking I wouldn't want any of them in our team rather than what we've got now. So yeah, I'm happy, let them play.
And then right after that, on the horizon, there's only a 2-day gap, and then they've got Huddersfield in the FA Cup. How do they go about that game? Because you can't play a weakened team. You're in an FA Cup quarter-final. It's quarter-final, isn't it?
No.
It's fifth round.
Yeah.
Round. FA Cup fifth round, sorry. But with a quarter-final up for grabs. You can't really play a weakened team, can you?
No, not at all. And we've got to win that game for many reasons. We've come too far now. You don't do what you do against Arsenal and Leicester and then say, let's play a weakened team. And I don't believe we have a weakened team out there anyway, because there's someone for every position. But Samba will be back, I think, won't he? That'll be the end of his 3 games. And, there's so many different reasons why I want to beat them. And I know we're going to touch upon this in a bit, but, we beat Huddersfield. We'll already know who we've got in the next round. And it's either going to be a winnable game or a monster of a tie that we're all going to get excited about, which always helps the momentum. And then the other thing is we win and the silly Fulham 8 p.m. game gets moved to another silly time, but at least they don't get the way with that one. So, yeah, hopefully it'll be a sellout as well.
I guess it's one of those games where maybe Sam Surridge gets some minutes at the start. Davies keeps getting taken off and he's not played a lot of football. So there probably will have to be a bit of rotation, won't there? Just looking at the attitude to the game, I think when it was drawn, a lot of fans kind of thought Forest are definitely going to win that.
And this is the problem.
You look at Huddersfield, they're above Forest in the table. They're on a 16-game unbeaten run. They've obviously got a manager who knows what he's doing. I mean, the fact Forest are at home helps, but it's going to be a tough game, isn't it?
Yeah, the fact we're at home is massive, especially because the way we've played the 2 FA Cup games, we'll play it exactly the same. And how many times over how many years have we gone to, playoff games, massive cup games where you go, but we'll win this one. And it always goes wrong. So I do feel like it's going to be different under Cooper. And he's going to treat Huddersfield exactly like he treated Arsenal, Leicester. And it's exciting, isn't it? I mean, 2 games from Wembley then.
So which game would you rather win? Don't say both. You can only win one game. Which one would you rather win?
Beat Sheffield United, draw against Huddersfield, and then do them in injury time.
That's winning both. That's just a sly way of winning both.
You've got to beat Sheffield, no matter how much the dream of you've got to beat Sheffield United, haven't you? You've got to. That's the one we've got to win.
You can still get in the playoffs if you don't beat Sheffield United. If you don't beat Huddersfield, you're out of the cup. But then you're not going to win the cup ultimately, are you? So the realist says beat Sheffield United and then bow out to Huddersfield and maybe. In fact, someone said to me, "Is the FA Cup becoming a distraction?" I don't think it is actually.
No, those Arsenal and Leicester games, what they did for the atmosphere around the ground. I believe like those 2 games have helped many of the other league games sell out recently as well. You keep winning games and then it doesn't matter how many you're playing.
Fulham ticket price you mentioned there. Obviously, Forza Garibaldi aren't the trust and anything like that, and they're not the voice of the fans, but you are a group that fans take an interest in their opinion. 35 quid is a lot of money for a ticket. I know it's London. I know Fulham, you've got to pay about 1.5 million or be a Russian oligarchs buy a 2-bed terrace by Craven Cottage. But 35 quid's a lot of money, isn't it?
It's a disgrace. And what annoys me more than anything is you can go to Arsenal away for £26 in the Premier League. Like, why aren't the EFL doing anything for the fans on this? Not only is it an 8 p.m. kickoff, it's got a very good chance of moving to midweek. London's expensive enough. We may be able to get a train back after the game if the British Transport Police or whoever help, if we beg, and it shouldn't come to this. But I don't know what we're supposed to do because you don't go to the games and then you miss out on what you love and you enjoy doing. You do go and you're just saying it's okay. So it's a tough one, and I know we're certainly not voice of fans, but the official bodies of, like the Trust and Fulham's Trust, if they even care, they probably don't. People involved in the EFL, they really need to start looking at it because it's getting ridiculous, especially when you look at what Premier League, fans are playing for away games, and that has been decided for years. No doubt nothing will come of this. Fulham's next game, they'll do exactly the same, and then we'll go to a certain ground and it'll be exactly the same. But fans are getting sick and tired of it. You only have to see it online. The amount of games we get changed now for TV and this, that, the other, without any consideration for fans. The Bournemouth thing was, the icing on the cake for the absolute mick take of the lot of it. And this is just another bit of salt in the wound for going to follow your team and doing what you love. I just feel like clubs are taking advantage of fans because they know they're going to go anyway. So I don't know what the answer is other than either saying, well, we're not going to bother going to these ridiculous games, or, protesting in the stands, or something has to be done.
You're a European football hipster. What are you paying for Dortmund and the not Salzburg team that isn't Red Bull or whoever you go and watch?
Dortmund's about, I think it's under €20 to sit in the South Stand. Their season ticket prices are like ridiculously low, but it's just different. They've got 51% ownership by the fans, and that would never happen in England. The model's just not there, so we can't ever expect to pay what they do. What I will say is I think Forest season ticket prices are superb again, some of the best in the league, especially for the quality we're watching this season. I think that works out at under £20 a game. So we can't moan as well. I'm sure we can, but we shouldn't really moan as Forest fans compared to other teams. But it annoys me more than anything when we go on the road in the numbers we do and we're taken advantage of like we are, whether it be, TV or the money. So, yeah, you go and watch teams in Europe and you see how great they've got it, but it's only because fans stood up and said something. In Germany, they started Monday night games straight away. The fan says, we're not having this, just to, fund the TV costs and the sponsors, and they put a stop to it, where in the UK, I think we just happily go and enjoy business, and that's fine, but it's two different football cultures, so you can't really compare them.
Last topic I wanted to touch on this week, in what's a slightly shortened episode because of Gary's situation, is the actual playoff race, if Forest are going to make it, and the state of it. If we look at the championship table, or I look at the championship table on my phone, there's obviously a gap at the top two because Bournemouth have got so many games in hand. Huddersfield, we've obviously been discussing, got 59 points, so they've got a bit of a cushion. And then you've got Blackburn in fourth, QPR in fifth, who are wobbling, Luton on the charge on 54, and they hold the sixth place. So Forest are 3 points behind them, 13 games to go. And then you go down to Coventry on 51 with Forest, and there's a little gap. And West Brom are down in 13th, suddenly on 46 points with no games in hand. What's your kind of assessment of the state of the race at the moment?
We're in a very good position. We are. We're winning games, which is the main thing, and we've come from so far behind the others. You'd think if we continue the way we are, we're going to hopefully comfortably get in that playoff race. West Brom, their drop is just incredible. They didn't have a new manager bounce at all. So amazingly, they're out of it, which is a good thing. I don't want Bournemouth to drop out the top two because I won't fancy playing them in the playoffs. I think we'd probably take Luton's spot if looking at that, or QPR's, like you say. I can't see Luton holding it up there. They've been on a good run, but I think fifth and sixth will be up for grabs.
I see Luton say they've got the third lowest budget in the league, so they're massively punching above their weight. Yeah, QPR are falling. Sheffield United aren't going badly. I suppose the thing about Forest, David Johnson was saying last week, he'd rather be in the chasing pack than in the top six. I don't know, I kind of disagree with that. I think I might rather have points on the board, because what Forest can't afford now is a bad run, because the bad run was the start of the season, wasn't it?
Yeah. Points on the board's everything. You've got to keep winning, and winning on Friday, like I say, it'll mean everything. And would that put us in the top six for Saturday?
Let me have a look at the goal difference. 12-9. Yes. Yeah, it would. I mean, that's a nice psychological boost, isn't it, if it does happen?
Yeah.
So I'm giving you 50p, and you're putting the money on Forest to get in the playoffs or just miss out. What are you saying?
Win the playoffs. I'll go for this. Go for the better odds.
Excellent. 51 points. You probably need 23 points, roughly, from 13 games, which gets you 74 points, gets you in the playoffs. 71 might get you in the playoffs, which sounds very possible. I just think they might miss out. There's so many teams up there. So if I'm right and they do miss out, I mean, is that a disaster or not?
I don't think we will miss out, but no way, not with how we started. You know, Houghton just didn't do it at all. We've been over it so many times, but the run we've been on so far, if it wasn't to happen this year, I believe that it isn't going to change anything at the way that how our club's running at the minute. They'll continue to do what Dave Murphy and Steve Cooper have been doing with the recruitment. Obviously, we're going to lose some of the loanees and maybe lose a couple of our own players. But I think if we didn't make it this season, next season will be one to remember.
In years gone by, if we said realistically 6 of the starting 11, if you say the 5 loanees and Brennan Johnson and potentially Joe Worrell are going to go, if they don't go up, that would be a cause for panic and alarm, wouldn't it? But as the fact that things are done differently behind the scenes now, giving you cause for hope that no matter what happens, things are looking brighter. Yeah,
because they're signing players where you go, God, why do we need him? And then suddenly these players are playing really, really well, which isn't something that usually happens at Forest. So I'd imagine we'll get some players in the summer and we'll go, who's that? And we're all on Wikipedia, and they'll be the same as, like Davies has been doing so far, and Surridge, the bits we've been seeing of him. So I have full confidence, whatever league we're in next season, that the summer transfer window will be a really good one again.
Who was your man of the match on Saturday, by the way?
Spence, yeah. I thought Spence was superb. I thought Zink played well, but walked into the pub after the game and said that out loud, and one lad had a right pop at me. But yeah, I thought they all played well, but Spence just stands out. And I can't believe we haven't mentioned him, but McKenna's just superb. I love watching him, and again, it makes that midfield so much stronger, not having to worry about what's going on behind him. So yeah, Spence deservedly got it. Davies was playing well again when he does his, and they all played well.
What about Garner and his resurgence? I mean, he's back to his best now, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. And he's another one in the summer where you think, is there a chance we could sign him? I know he wants to play for Man United, obviously, but you can't imagine he'd be ready for a Man U team next season. So do we get him on loan again for another season? Because he clearly, he does so well playing for us, and he's getting better as the weeks go on. So I'd love to see him with us next season again.
Yeah, if they go up, I could see him with Forest next season.
Yeah, you'd think he'd need the step up.
Yeah, I could see him playing on loan at Forest again next season, definitely. Last question, frivolous question. Who's your player of the year so far, then?
Because he's in my head, I'd give it McKenna. But I think it has to be Spence or Johnson. So I think I'd say, I don't like giving it a loanee though, so it has to be Johnson, because if it's the last season we have him, we want to make sure he was a player of the year. So yeah, I'd go with him.
It's pretty mad, isn't it, that, Johnson's got 6 goals in 8 games and he's probably worth 25 million quid or whatever, and he's not the first name that you necessarily think of for player of the season. Shows how times have changed. Right. Any other business? I normally let Gary moan about anything in the world, and there's plenty to moan about in the world, certainly. Any other business from you this week before we finish?
No, just enjoying it, really. It was good to get all the flags out again on Saturday, and that's going to be something that we're ramping up now for pretty much every game for the rest of the season. So, and not just in Lower Bridgeford either. Oh, one thing, I enjoyed how they switched ends this game. I don't know whether that was Bristol City. We attacked the Trent end in the first half, and it was nice that they were coming towards us in the second half. So
who won the coin toss then?
Well, they must have, unless it was like a Cooper Genius thing, because for the first 10 minutes of the second half, their keeper had the sun right in his eyes. I don't know whether he thinks that deep.
That's a proper problem, yeah. I hope Forest think that deep. That sun coming in, if you're in the Brian Clough and the sun's coming in, it's a bloody nightmare. Right, an interesting note to end on. Okay, so thanks to everyone who listened or watched along. Sorry we only had Gary for 12 minutes and 8 of those probably had no signal, but that's the modern era of doing these things from home. So I hope everyone still enjoyed that. And if you did, give us a good rating and subscribe on YouTube, iPhone, iTunes, or any other platform. Greg, thanks very much as ever.
No, good to be on again.
Thank you for listening to Garibaldi Red, a Nottingham Forest podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, then please let us know. We love hearing your feedback. We'll be back soon with another episode. Thanks for listening.